And welcome back. Good to see everybody. Again, I know we say this every time, but it feels like it's been for forever.
Well, last week we released your live video instead of
Mm,
I guess you say
doing the
our new
podcast.
content. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a really good conversation though. Like I have no hate.
Yeah, like I hate that the sound quality was a little off, but I mean that can't be helped. It was through our phones over the cloud, so
Yeah.
that's going to
Over
happen.
over TikTok.
Yeah, yeah. But it was a great conversation. I felt like we actually got to we got to dig deeper than a lot of just superficial complaints. We got to actually dig into the meat of some issues with the culture of EMS and how providers tend to carry themselves and what the expectations are, or in this case aren't, on providers coming into this field. So
Mhm.
obviously it's still just scratched the surface. I mean, we were gone there for well over an hour and a half
Yeah.
and doesn't even begin to scratch the surface of everything that needs to be talked about. But it kind of goes well with us going through the core values
Mhm.
again, reviewing all of that.
Well, and I'm all for everybody talking about everything, but if we're wanting to have a good conversation, you need people that have, researched and put thought into something. A big issue with certain roundtable discussions is if you have people just coming into like a live, for example, just wanting to run their mouth. It's like, okay, if you weren't there for the whole conversation, we're going to have repeats of stuff,
Hmm.
not necessarily productive conversation or comments. So, like, I know everybody wants, a piece of the pie, but like,
There's plenty of pie, people.
well,
There's
there's
plenty of
there's
pie.
there's plenty of pie, but like if you want to have an opinion, like that's great and all, we want to hear all of them. Please research it. Don't just be a motor mouth to either something that has already been beat to death or, come in with an ignorant opinion when you haven't actually researched it. If you want to learn, that's fine. Like have a conversation, but don't be, spitting things as if they're facts when in fact they may not be.
Well, I think a lot of people too, they tend to look through the lens just of where they are or their specific service
Yes.
and not think about, okay, but broadly, what do we need?
That's fair.
And I think that's where a lot of times people will get very short sighted about the hills they die on because they're not looking at the full context of EMS. And there's just certain things that are just not workable on a large scale.
Mhm.
And that doesn't mean that those aren't important topics and things that shouldn't be discussed. Just we need to keep some kind of frame of reference for what's relevant for the entire industry and what's not.
Mhm.
You may be a small service that runs, 300 calls a year. Your needs are going to be very different than a service that runs 100,000,
70,000.
yeah,
Yeah,
70 to
whatever.
100,000 calls a year. It's just two completely different worlds and they're going to have different specific needs culturally. However, there are broader concepts and principles that do apply to both.
We could go off on this tangent forever.
Yeah, yeah. So
Um
we're
so
yeah, we're
more
anyway.
more discussion to come. So we don't quite have a call review like specifically
Mhm.
today, but we wanted to we're going to call it I
Devil
kind
in the
of yeah, I was
details.
going to say we kind of like this. Documentation seems to be a significant problem no matter the size of your industry or excuse me, not industry, your service. ALS, BLS, GT, interfacility, whatever you call it, critical care. It doesn't matter. Documentation is a fucking problem.
Yeah.
So this is me saying, listen, Linda, is the devil's in the details.
We
I
can
feel like
bring
I
back
hadn't
the
say
Listen
that in.
Lindas.
I feel
This
like we
this could be
hadn't
the
said that
Listen Linda section.
there you go, the listen, Linda. Well, and literally, we were talking about this because I was just working on a chart that I BLS'd a patient to, a BLS crew, and everything was BLS about this call. Like, I even did a sepsis workup, and this patient did not meet sepsis criteria. And literally, I read the narrative of the BLS crew, and I'm like, oh my fucking God. And I have to say, this call type is something that I consistently see that BLS crews, whether they're arguing with me or they're putting it in the narrative, are trying to make UTIs an ALS call. And no, I'm not saying that a UTI, I'm not
No.
saying that a UTI cannot be ALS because
Hmm.
obviously you can have sepsis, septic shock, all the things. I'm talking about the flat out like anybody can have a UTI. It does not automatically make it ALS or sepsis. And that was this lady last night. But we've also referenced it was a few podcasts ago, but it was within the last couple months. The other BLS crew that tried to physically argue with me that a UTI made it ALS. And in our narratives, I'm not saying they're doing it maliciously, but I know that I am very thorough with my documentation.
That would be understatement of the day.
Shut up. Stop.
Stop. Being so mean.
But
No.
he listen, he's mean to me. He's mean to me.
You're clearly so tore up over it.
I can't help but laughing. Anyways, there is a difference, especially with dispatch, in the reported chief complaint, like what you're called out for, versus what the actual impression is. So, like last night, I'm not going to go into the whole thing. Called out for altered mental status, / UTI. Cool. Get there. Grandma is altered at baseline. Literally, they were like, oh yeah, she's basically normal. She's just more tired. Like, can't quite wake her up. We had to like feed her all of her dinner. She has like severe dementia. She's nonverbal. I'm like, cool. No stroke. Vital signs perfect. She was 91 and on like 2 medications for like, GERD. Simple stuff.
That's my favorite acronym. GERD.
I mean,
Ermagerd, ergs.
Honestly, that's probably what your tummy is saying when it's upset. Anyways, in their narrative, she smelled like UTI. But in their narrative, it was literally like unresponsive. No, she was responsive to painful stimuli. So that's not unresponsive, first, on the AVPU scale. Second, they were like, nonverbal, non-oriented. Okay, that's her baseline. Literally, the way they wrote it is this patient is completely altered. Like, their narrative said it didn't say, but like the way it read is this should have been ALS, full workup, sepsis, antibiotics, all the things. And I'm like, okay, reported complaint and presentation, you have to acknowledge what the baseline is. Because
and document it appropriately.
You have to document it appropriately. Like it. So now I'm gonna have to write an entire fucking narrative that should be like one paragraph. Okay, one paragraph for me long.
It's like a fucking encyclopedia.
It is not. It should be able to be a short narrative. Hey, this is what I found. I passed it off to a BLS crew. Now I'm gonna have to write probably a 3 or 4 for me paragraph narrative, basically destroying theirs to justify this was patient's baseline.
Mind
this was not ALS.
Paragraph for her is like that.
It's literally like 4 or 5.
It's half the page. So you just a heads up.
It is not that bad.
Don't even with me.
I wonder if we're able to like post one of my narratives one time so people can read it. Listen, even my cardiac arrest narratives are a minimum of 4 paragraphs. Did I say paragraphs? Charts. Narratives.
You said paragraphs. 4 charts for an arrest?
No. 1 arrest chart is a minimum of 4 paragraphs.
There we go. Yeah.
Even if it's signal 9. Listen, it is impossible for me
Dispatched to residents for cardiac arrest. Showed up, found them dead. End of report.
Oh, no. Okay. But
even mine aren't that short, typically. But
I could talk on this forever.
Yeah, no.
So, okay.
We're working on it.
Point being, differentiate between your baseline normal presentation versus the sick presentation. And just because what you're dispatched to does not mean that equals your impression and chief complaint.
Here's what I think of as the perfect illustration of this, because it sounds ridiculous, but it brings up the point. So you have a patient with, say, an amputation. Okay. So you document in your chart that they have an amputation. Let's say it's right below the knee amputation. Okay, so you just document that in your chart. You're making it look like they just had their fucking leg cut off. Okay, but it could be a diabetic patient who lost their leg 10 years ago, and they have a stump. You need to differentiate between, hey, this is what I found, but this is a baseline. This is not a new thing. You need to clarify. So, yes, that sounds like no duh. It's no different with mentation. It's no different than your basic complaints. You need to identify what is normal, what is abnormal for the patient specifically.
Well, and if you're going to put it in your narrative, literally it takes like 2 extra words. No, 3 extra words. At patient's baseline. Nonverbal. at patient's baseline.
Mm-hmm.
It, same with
Not hard.
same with orientation. It's 3 fucking extra words to prove that this patient is not, actively dying from sepsis.
Mm-hmm. It's not rocket science.
Okay, listen,
Not
Linda's
hard.
that was our devil in the details. Now on to
Yes.
our actual content.
So, like we've said before, we're going through our core values and addressing troubleshooting issues with those core values. So last regular podcast, we talked about troubleshooting issues with leadership. Right now, we're going to talk about troubleshooting issues with personal wellness, because this is probably one, I mean, I'd say of all the things, this is where, as an industry, we're the weakest.
Oh, 100%.
Is this
Because,
particular topic right here?
well, because leadership, it could be individual, it could be, whole service. Same with arguably with clinical discipline. Accountability is still individual, but with your personal wellness, nobody can fix that except you.
Mm-hmm.
Literally nobody. This is a personal thing that, sure, you can find different programs and stuff out there, but like it is personalized to you. You have to decide whether you're going to do it or not. And if you're a fat fuck that has Cheeto dust in your belly button, then I love that I love that reference. I love
it.
that
So
reference.
good. Your gelatinous man titties.
For the record,
For the guys.
Daniel, well, no, I was going to say, Daniel did not make that up. That is actually a quote from Bedros Koulian. We listened to his podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, sorry, dudes. Like,
but point,
you got to get over you're gonna get your feelings hurt today. So embrace it.
women can. I'm just going to stop talking.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, speaking as a dude to the dudes, like, you're gonna have to suck it up and get your feelings hurt.
I'm talking to the women too, just as a whole. Anyways,
that's why we're both doing
point
this.
being, point being, if you are overweight and in poor health, it is literally your fault. Don't get me wrong. I am not a skinny mini. I have extra weight, but guess what? I'm actively working on it, and
making progress.
Oh, can I do that online? I'm sorry.
Yeah, you can. It's fucking YouTube. They don't care.
Anyways, it's literally a personal decision, and it's not even. We don't expect providers to be freakishly skinny and beefcakes. The point is that you're actively working on stuff and making improvement. Maintaining body weight, especially with our fucked up work and sleep schedules, is very difficult, which actually brings us into, we're going to talk about physical health first.
So we're going to break down the topic of personal wellness into 2 main sections: physical health and mental health. And then under each of those, we're going to list 3 obstacles. I say obstacles. You could argue excuses, but we'll get to that. And then
excuses.
And then 3 solutions. And I think before we dive into that, it's important to understand that the perspective we're approaching this from is very much anti-victim mentality. Mm-hmm. And this is not because of any kind of superiority complex or being, judgmental or culty about something. It's truly, as we have addressed these things in our own lives and have had to deal with different obstacles, both mentally and physically, we have found that ultimately your mindset, your personal choices dictate everything.
Yes.
You condition yourself to the way you think. And now you may look at it as like, oh, well, I've had all these things happen to me and all this and that I can't do anything about, because you've conditioned yourself to take the path of least resistance. And your brain just accepts these feedback loops that you give yourself that aren't actually healthy or helping you at all.
Well, and like we've talked before, and we will always maintain that trauma comparing, not sharing, trauma comparing and situation comparing is not fucking fair, because what's hard for one may not be hard for another. But I would like to put it out there. If you change your mentality, literally almost anything is possible. And if it's not working for you, then make a change in your schedule, in your life, whatever. Currently, Daniel and I are bouncing not only 3 children in a household and, very, very many animals. We're
a fuck ton of animals up in
We're
here.
currently balancing 5 jobs as well. And I mean, we've talked before, like, that's not necessarily out of necessity, like monetary wise. We had different ventures, but like, you have to put in the mental commitment to organize and tackle it. So we'll get into that. Let's start with obstacles first. Excuses.
So in physical health, there's three main excuses, excuses we'll talk about.
It's
One,
excuses.
one is schedule. Two is access to food. That's very generic, but we'll get into that. Three is inconsistent downtime. Let's talk about schedule first, because this is something that you and I can relate to, because we have worked pretty much every schedule under the sun, except for like the 4896s. Like, we haven't done that, but anything else we've done.
Mm-hmm.
In a way, well, what's the most common issues people have is, well, I work too much.
Mm-hmm.
I get it. Been there, done that, got the t-shirt. At the worst, I was on 12s, and I was working an average of 23 days a month.
Mm-hmm.
That was night shift. Personally, I actually found that was easier, because I would get up, I get home usually around 8 o'clock, go to bed. I was awake usually by 1, which isn't great, I guess, but I was awake. And I still had a solid 4 hours before I'd have to go into work. 4 or 5 hours, as far as like before I need to start like prepping and leave. Perfect. I would do yoga every day for like an hour, have time to meal prep, all this stuff. You find the time when you want it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, right now, my body would not do well on night shift again. But still, yes, the schedules suck. And I actually we have a mutual friend of ours who is the first person I knew that was doing the 75 Hard program. He was working 12-hour day shifts from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
That man was still squeezing in 2 45-minute workouts, one on either side of his shift, and was doing carnivore diet and was reading every day. So, he's working the same schedule as, in our department situation, hundreds of other people. He found the time to do it. The schedule is not truly an obstacle to being consistent. It really isn't.
I mean, it's just one of those things. Well, and here's the thing. Depending on what you look at, some people are like, oh, well, I don't have time to work out for an hour and a half a day. Well, actually, you do. You can do, 3 30-minute workouts. You can do 2 45-minute workouts. All things considered, getting up an extra 45 minutes early and walking around the block is not that fucking hard. Like, I'm sorry, it's not. Doing things on shift, we'll get into inconsistent downtime, but, doing things on shift, it might be hard. But, like, especially on 12s, you can sandwich your 12-hour shift, or if you so happen to get some downtime, go on a 30-minute walk. It's really not that hard. When we're talking about physical health, you don't have to go run. Actually, running is actually pretty bad for your fucking knees. But like walking forwards, walking backwards, power walking. Something else with the schedule, let's say that you take a patient to the hospital, you have 20 minutes, you've already passed off your patient within like 10 to 15 minutes. I know that doesn't happen very often, but point being, before you clear the hospital, how about you do 10 squats? Do 10 squats every time you take a patient to the hospital. Sure, you may look like a crazy person if you're the only one doing it in the bay, but how about you and all the crews that are there make it a competition? See how many squats you can do in 30 seconds.
Well, and I guess that's another general note to make for all of this is you're going to be looked at as a crazy person for all the stuff, all the solutions we're giving. People are going to look at you like, how many people have looked at us weird about food? We'll get to that in a second. But
I'm pretty sure people. Okay, but how many people will drive by the station to be like, "Why the fuck are you doing that in the parking lot?" One of the departments, they're like, "Why are you walking?
Why aren't you?"
Well, but I mean,
you're a firefighter. Why aren't you getting better exercise? Sorry.
Daniel, boring. Oh my god.
But it's true. It's true.
Oh, I'm pretty sure Daniel and I were actually working out in the front yard the other day, and we were doing some crazy hit thing. And at one point, we were doing this motion where you had to like balance coordination between the arms and the hips and stuff. And I was like, Daniel, do you think nobody will rob our house because they drive by and see us doing some crazy shit? And they're like, oh my god, they would probably attack us naked if they came into our house.
Listen, I'm not above that funny story. When I was in college, I was the chief prankster on my hall, and the one time they tried to get me back, we would ice people in the shower all the time. So in the dorm had the dorm had 2 separate wings, and in the center was a staircase down to the basement, and in one of the rooms right there near the staircase was an ice machine. So my first semester, I was up on the 3rd floor, so I'd haul up and down there. My Sorry, that was the first year. The second year, I was on the second floor, so it was a little shorter trip. But I would just haul ass up and down there. I'd be back and forth with ice in like 3 minutes. So anyway, so one night they finally decided to come and ice me. And the dorm showers, where it was like, just a shower stall, and there was kind of a secondary stall for you to change and do your stuff, and then there was out in the rest of the room. Well, these motherfuckers tried to ice me, and I see it right as it's coming over the top of the shower. I came running out of there buck naked. Scared the living shit out of the guy that did it. Like, he literally was like, "Oh shit!" and ran off. Because I didn't care. I went straight on full naked. And afterwards, he was like, "Dude, it's like a fucking bull coming out of there."
Oh my God.
So yes, I will attack you naked if you walk into my house unexpectedly. Just heads up.
I love how we went from
I know.
to nakedness.
But, point being,
people are gonna look at you like you're crazy when you're doing this. But like, here's the thing: meet up in the fucking bay and have a squat competition, or push-ups if you have like.
Hey, let's go pop a squat in the bay.
But I mean, as much as you may want to shit on the hospital, literally.
I was referencing the whole popping a squat thing.
I know, you pop a squat when you take a shit. Have you never heard that expression?
No, I know. We had this conversation about this. Had a friend told me to.
That's right.
Had a friend who told a patient to pop a squat on a stretcher. I was like, "Dude, what?" He's like, "What? Just squat down." I was like, "That's not what that fucking means, you idiot."
But anyways, with scheduling, I know on 24s we have a little bit more downtime than some of the other crews and such. But again, sometimes it comes down to I will choose to do. Granted, we're doing 75 hard, but I choose to do my second workout before I finish my chart. Now, no, I get my charts done within the 24-hour requirement, blah, blah, blah. But sometimes you just have to choose, prioritizing things.
Mm-hmm.
Just like how we've expressed, like, if you are so tired at 2 o'clock in the morning, you need to prioritize sleep over doing that chart. Yeah. So, like, what we have found and what our friend has actually said is if you do something like prioritizing your health, eating, sleeping, all the rest of it, you're going to start finding that you can prioritize. Sorry, I'm jumping into your solutions.
Yeah, we'll get to the solutions in a minute.
Sorry.
We're dealing with the obstacles here. So scheduling is hard for consistency. And I get it. Sleep is a problem.
Yes.
Our schedules, no matter what kind you have, are not conducive to sleep.
Never mind, that's part of the solution. I'm trying to mesh them together.
Yep,
Sorry.
We're getting there.
Sorry.
So, yes, we get that. And sleep, that's one that it's tough because on the one hand, you're like, well, sometimes you just got to suck it up. Like, you got to get up early to go get your workout in at the gym. You got to get up fucking early. It just is the way it is. But we understand, yes, that's a shitty side effect of all this that can't be helped. We cannot help the fact that we do work crazy schedules that affect our sleep no matter what rotation you work. Mm-hmm. Another big one is access to food. So there's two sides to this. It's very easy access to really awful food. Mm-hmm. That makes it harder because I love my QT gas station food as much as the next guy. Those taquitos are fucking bomb.
Don't let him fool you. His favorite is fucking Taco Bell.
Oh, fuck yeah. I'm just saying as far as like, a quick in and out thing, especially if you're at an agency that, posts trucks and doesn't have stations. Thankfully, I've never worked for an agency like that before, but it's kind of funny.
Won't catch me dead.
Yeah. But, it's very easy to access the, quote, cheap food that's fucking awful for you. But also, it's harder, not impossible, but it's harder to eat healthier food when you're working a full-time EMS schedule. Mm-hmm. Like, understandably, that is difficult. That's not even an excuse per se. It's used as an excuse. But that is an obstacle. That is friction. That is difficult to deal with. Mm-hmm. But it's not impossible to address. And then the third main obstacle towards physical health in this job is inconsistent downtime. You may have days where you're not doing jack shit. Mm-hmm. You have time to read, to work out, to eat, take a nap. Like, you're feeling on top of the fucking world. And then there's other days where you're just getting butt fucked like a French whore. And you can't do anything about it. So, like, I get that there is inconsistency. However, there's a way to deal with that too. Mm-hmm. So, recap, main obstacles towards physical health and EMS: schedule, sucks dick, sleep is probably the hardest part, access to food, both access to bad food and lack of access to good food, and 3, inconsistent downtime. You can't predict the time that you'll have to do or accomplish anything that isn't related to a call. But there's some solutions for that. And in a way, they kind of all work together, but we just kind of break them up one for one.
Mm-hmm.
So for scheduling, prioritizing, which we talked about a little bit.
I was gonna say, really, it could be prioritize all of it because let's take inconsistent downtime for example. There will be times where I have started my 45-minute workout while on shift and catch a call. Well, we both keep track of our workout times on our watches. We have an Apple Watch. You could do it on your phone, whatever. And I'll literally, instead of ending the workout, I'll literally just pause it. And as soon as I get back to my station or get to the hospital or whatever, as soon as I have any kind of downtime, even if it's only 5 minutes, I like immediately, as soon as I hit the door back at the station, I immediately jump right back into it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's still prioritizing and picking up where you left off. Now, you're going to have those times that, sure, you get to the station, check off your truck, and immediately running calls until you go back to the station for logistics. Cool. As soon as you get off shift, you need to prioritize doing that workout.
Mm-hmm.
Same with prioritizing food. When it comes to sleeping, I am almost positive we've mentioned this at least once. I have chronic fucking insomnia. And sure, you should. Oftentimes, we do make the argument that you need to prioritize sleep, especially like if you're in school, if you're studying, it's going to help your memory.
Mm-hmm.
However, although my insomnia is still fucking crazy, have we not seen a better change doing the physical stuff more
Mm-hmm.
often? If you are working out your body and like healthy, stressing the body with the
Mm-hmm.
physical exertion, not just the mental exertion, it is going to help you sleep. So like if you can prioritize a healthier sleeping habit, we found we were listening to an insomnia podcast that actually orange light is more beneficial for
Mm-hmm.
you 30 minutes to an hour before bed. We use more of a red light, but it works the same way. It's like you can stay up doing things in a red orange light. You can listen to music. There's 342 hertz music that is supposed to help with sleep. Do your research.
432.
What did I say?
342.
Oh, I'm sorry. 432.
Not earth shattering, just for those that want to go look it up.
Well, yeah, if you want to use it, you can use it on Amazon Music. But prioritizing sleep, yes. But if you can prioritize your physical health as well, it will help your quality of sleep. So even if you're only
Mm-hmm.
getting, I think right now I'm averaging like 4.5 hours of sleep each night, but the quality has gotten better. So you can still prioritize both of them because they're going to go hand in hand. As soon as you get past prioritizing the physical health, it starts helping with the sleep, which means you can do more physical stuff and it helps your mood, all the things. Now, you also have to prepare.
Mm-hmm. Which specifically goes with food. Whether you do all of your meal prep a week at a time or you do it just day before, depends on what kind of diet you're doing.
And schedule.
Yeah, I mean, the way we eat, we're largely able to we'll prepare some things way in advance and then other things are kind of day of, just depending on what it is that we're eating.
Mm-hmm.
But we are very particular about the things we get, the timing with which we get them, how we prepare them, all of that, so that when you're on a busy stretch where you're at work for multiple days at a time, where your ship's passing in the night, you don't have to think. It's all there and ready. You get up in the morning, you grab your shit, you get out the door, you're good to go.
I'm not going to lie, when you prepped my food bag, what was it, 2 days ago before I went on shift, I didn't have to get up. I was able to, I mean, it was only like 15, 20 minutes, but still, that 15, 20 minutes at 4 o'clock in the morning matters.
Yeah.
Sleep in a little bit longer because I literally didn't have to think about what I was packing. I literally just grabbed the Aldi bag out of the fridge and was gone.
Yep. So if you spend time to prepare, what is it? Proper preparation prevents piss poor performance.
Yes.
If you actually spend a little bit of time preparing, in this case specifically for food, but even for how to use your downtime,
Mm-hmm.
if you prepare your food, and especially if you give yourself options, because I know I it's weird. I don't like not having the ability to at last minute switch up something that I eat.
Yeah.
So I will overpack
Yeah.
so that I have some options. If I get interrupted, I can grab something else. I have a little bit of flexibility. I'm not dependent on one thing.
Mm-hmm.
And there are tons of foods that you can get that require little to no prep time,
Mm-hmm.
quality macros, healthy for you, don't require extreme temperature control. As long as you have just a cooler with an ice pack in there, you can go all day with it. That's fine.
Well, and that comes to when prepping, and having good versus bad access to food. If you have a station with a fridge, cool. Keep your food there. Cook if you have time. If you know that you're not going to see the station, bring a cooler to keep your food cold. And people are going to argue, well, I don't like certain foods cold. Fucking cool.
Deal with it.
Well, hold on. There are certain foods that I don't like eating cold either. But however, hospitals have fucking microwaves. Almost all. Well,
a lot of gas stations do in some way, shape, or form.
I was gonna say all, but there's some of the like small ones that don't. But like your QTs, your 7-Elevens, your Spinks.
I think even Spinks does, yeah.
Yeah, your Spinks, your Casey's for those in the Midwest, like your Come and Goes in the Midwest.
I can't get over that name. I'm sorry, I just can't.
I have a lighter that says Come and Go. He's like, no. I was like, it's a gas station. He was like,
it's easy to turn on.
Heat up your food in the microwave. Like, think ahead based on what truck you're on. Like, you can still fucking prepare and bring stuff. They make coolers now that'll keep food, cold, just like the cups for like, 2 days. So keeping stuff cold is no longer an excuse either.
And that also helps you cut down on excessive time spent dealing with food. If you do the preparation, then you minimize the amount of your downtime that is encroached upon by food. Allows you to prioritize eating the food, because I'm sorry, if I'm fucking hungry, the report's gonna have to wait. It's gonna fucking wait.
Yeah.
I'm at that point now. I also have the luxury of being in a service that's not stupid fucking busy, so I know that I have the luxury of being able to have some downtime to eat.
But even when I was at services that were super busy, I would take an extra 5 minutes at the hospital. Like, I'm gonna fucking eat, or I'm gonna throw up on a call. Yeah.
And I would say, spend some money on a good cooler. There are plenty of coolers out there that are not ridiculously expensive, that if you get the proper ice packs for them, they will keep your shit cold all day. For 12 fucking hours in the summer, they will keep your shit cold. Again, prioritize your expenses. And you can do this, you can eat intentionally, relatively inexpensively, if you do it right. But again, you have to be intentional, which is solution number 3. That again applies to all of these obstacles: schedule, access to food, and inconsistent downtime. If you're intentional and you find ways to create structure in the chaos, so that doesn't matter if your schedule is erratic, you're still able to get your shit done. Doesn't matter if you're busy all day, you still have access to quality food. It doesn't matter if your downtime is inconsistent. You have a list of priorities that the moment you have some downtime, you're fucking on it. I think it was all of my shifts have been like this lately, but my last shift, so I work 7A to 7A, and my last shift, I was in the middle of a 48, and both days.
You got popped almost immediately.
I'd say both days were pretty much like this, where I had to squeeze in my workouts. When I wasn't doing my workouts, I was on the computer doing shit for business, legal stuff, bunch of things going on.
Charts, yeah.
And, still kept on top of my charts. And using that downtime, spending time reading and being on the phone and doing all this stuff. I had a laundry list of things to do. Well, literally, I had laundry to do. So
I forgot about that.
Each day, I was up and doing shit from 7 in the morning until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And nonstop. No time to sit down. Didn't watch any like TV shows I think for a little while I had like stuff going on in the background while I was doing something else, but there was no sitting there watching shit.
I would say I like listening to stuff in the background, but like I can't tell you the last time I just sat down and watched TV either. Yeah, like just no time.
But listen, I feel better doing that than the days when I have time to sit and watch hours of TV on shift. Like, I feel infinitely better and more accomplished, and I sleep harder, and because I'm more out.
Well, and along with all of this, we're talking about food, and don't get me wrong, Daniel and I like our fucking caffeine. We love our caffeine.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. How many people do you know that don't prioritize water? They add in all of the extra shit, which don't get me wrong. We also drink, electrolyte packets here and there, I almost said food coloring, not food coloring.
Water flavoring.
Water flavoring. Oh, God. But, point being, a lot of people, their argument is, oh, well, I can't drink. Well, guess what? Daniel and I have done a fuck ton of research, and we're going to give you a short, brief description of it. But y'all need to go do your own fucking research.
Yeah.
So basically, the way to trick your body into craving more water is the minute you wake up, you need to chug down a minimum of
Guzzle.
what is it, 16 ounces or is it 20?
I usually aim for 18 ounces as soon as I get up.
Yeah, but
And
I think the minimum is 16. Like they want you to
yeah,
drink a whole ass cup of water, and
two
it
cups.
like, huh?
Well, technically 2 cups. 16
Oh,
ounces.
I'm thinking like
You're thinking like a
I'm
single
thinking
serving.
like our
Yeah.
single serve like our big
Yeah.
cups. Technically it's 2 cups, but we have big cups in this house. So 16 ounces of water, and it basically like kickstarts your body into craving more water. Your body can actually handle up to 40 ounces of water per hour. Like it's actually gotten to a point where I'm drinking so much fucking water. Daniel said it needs to
Too
slow
much,
down.
which is funny because we were the exact opposite before.
I used to survive on like 40 ounces of water a day.
Well, and there's two elements to proper hydration. One is timing. So the way you
Yeah.
space out is important. And
I'm
actually,
trying, Linda.
well, and I'm admittedly borrowing from Andrew Huberman, who,
Mhm.
if you are not familiar with his content, he is worth listening to. He's a I forget what all he is. He works at Stanford, like,
He's a neuroscientist at
yeah,
minimum.
actual neuroscientist,
Mhm.
who studies all these different optimization strategies for the body. But
Ooh,
his
his depression and mental health stuff is really good too.
yes, and light. He does a lot of stuff, a lot of information about
Light
light
therapy.
and timing of light exposure throughout the day to
Mhm.
keep your circadian rhythm in motion. Worth looking into. But the general recommendation for hydration is target is roughly a gallon of water a day.
Mhm.
Varies a little bit by body weight, but in general, that's kind of a good middle point. You want to consume 80 ounces of water in the first 8 hours that you are awake.
That's literally 10 ounces per
It's
hour, y'all.
it's nothing if
Yeah.
you're consistent.
Mhm.
And then the remaining, 48 ounces of water, you just kind of spread out throughout the rest of the day. Again, your kidneys can process what, like 18 ounces every 30 minutes, something like that.
It's 40 ounces in an hour.
There you go. So break it up. However, I
Yeah.
think incrementally you want it no more than 20 ounces at a time. For ideally, for your kidneys to efficiently process everything and not get overwhelmed.
Oh no.
Now, when you first wake up in the morning, your body's dehydrated.
Yeah.
So a little more, and it's okay if more passes through to just kind of cleanse everything from the detoxing your body had done during the night.
We're giggling because what was it, 2 days ago? I had 260 ounces of water in
Over
like
2 gallons of water.
I had that much water in what
Yeah.
was it, like 16 hours?
Yeah, it wasn't
60.
great.
It wasn't good.
So, like, just
I'm not a diabetic.
no. But so timing is one thing.
Mhm.
Two is your electrolytes. Whether
Yes.
you're getting them strictly through food, so dietary sources, or your supplemental sources. We were using liquid IV. We found some other alternatives that are really, really good,
Hmm.
that are
Less sugar.
less sugar,
Yeah.
more proper dosing, and a broader range of electrolytes. But
Soleil water
Soleil
and
water, if you can make that at home, that's cheap and
Celtic.
lasts forever.
What is it? Celtic salt water?
Making Soleil water, so if you make Soleil water, go Google it. It's SOLE.
Hmm.
Is traditionally made with pink Himalayan salt, but you can use Celtic salt for it as well.
Which actually is supposed to be better for you, but it's hard to find.
Yeah. So it's basically you make your own concentrated saline solution, basically, that
Yeah.
you then infuse into water sources. You can put it in your coffee. Like if you make coffee with it, you won't even fucking taste the salt. Like, and it makes your coffee taste fucking amazing.
Hmm.
But anyway, so proper hydration requires intentionality. You need to think about when you're drinking, what you're drinking. You need to adjust for exercise. So if you're working out for 45 minutes, you need to have at least an additional 20 ounces of water minimum with that. And if you're drinking lots of caffeine, you do need supplemental fluid to compensate for that, because that is going to actively dehydrate you. So your gallon total is going to get shifted depending on your caffeine intake. So all of that is just an example of what we deal with and how psychotic we're dealing with it right now.
I just can't help but laugh at just
What?
just when we go to the gym, I drink usually 2 of those. So I drink 80 ounces within like an hour work.
We're working on it. We're
I'm
working on it.
trying.
Yeah. So anyway,
We could go on forever about
yeah.
physical health.
So the point is, it's okay to be a little psychotic about it, because guess what? As you get older, it fucking matters even more.
Well, you have to obsess about the things that matter. And it's not just projects, it's literally your health.
Yeah. Like you only get one body, and I'm gonna tell you, and I'm not that old, but I'm turning 35 this year. There's some shit that's a little harder to keep up with now than it was 5-10 years ago. This is not easy. And I don't know about any of y'all listening, I would love to live well into my 90s. I want to see my grandkids and hopefully great grandkids. Like, that's the life I want. So I'm making decisions now that are not only trying to keep me healthy short term, but also long term. I don't just want longevity. I want a good lifespan. I want to actually be able to enjoy my life for as long as I can, to see my children's lives live out, to see their children's lives begin. All of that is what I want. So you have to think in those terms, and you have to obsess to a degree on those terms, not in a self-deprecating way, because that's not healthy. If your approach to your physical health is focused on self-deprecation, that's not going to go well. That's going to actually make the problem worse, both physically and mentally, because you're going to be stressed out more. But obsessing in the sense of deep diving into the details is ultimately going to help you out the most.
Well, and I do have to say, it's harder to do it on your own. Because, for example, we have seen, like with 75 hard, that like only 2% of people that go into 75 hard finish 75 hard without failing the first time through.
Mm-hmm.
Like, not saying, that percentage isn't based on like the second time that they try it, but like first time pass rates. And consistently what we see is it's all the people that are doing it by themselves. And people outside of them are like, "Oh, you're fucking weird." "Oh, why this?" Or, "Oh, come to the party." "Oh, it's okay to eat a little bit of cake on this one day, have a cheat day." And the whole point of 75 hard is fuck no. Well, it's so funny, speaking of mental health physical health and everything. I was doing an outside workout a few days ago when Daniel was on shift, and one of our neighbors, she drove up, and literally she goes, "Looking good. You are so committed. I see you out here every day." And I was so taken aback at first. I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes, "I see you out here every day, and I think, I wish I would do that." And I was just like, okay. She's like, "Why are you doing it?" And I decided to have a little fun with it. I was like, "Well, my husband and I are having a competition, and I'll be damned if he beats me." I was like, "That man's going to lose or we're going to finish together." And I mean, honestly, like kicking shit. It was the other morning when I got up for work, and I realized that Daniel and I hadn't talked about either of us completing 75 hard the day before.
God.
I smacked Daniel awake. I was like, "Did you take your picture?" Because I was like, "I'll be damned if we lose." We hadn't talked about it.
I know, it's hilarious.
It's just having an accountability partner, even if it's your partner.
Actually, we did. We did talk about it.
No, we didn't.
Yes, we did.
We did that morning.
No, like we specifically, we'll talk about it later. But yeah, we did talk about that. But it was still funny.
Okay,
You were just
well,
like, did you take your picture? I was like, yeah, I'm pretty sure I did.
But anyways, doing it on your own tends to be harder. You need an accountability partner. It will help, which kind of takes us into mental health.
Well, and just wrapping up on physical health, when you start to take this stuff seriously, you reference the kind of the social element, and people are like, "Well, why don't you come out and do this? Why don't you come out and do that?" You will start to realize, when you are actively prioritizing your well-being, you're going to start to notice habits of people around you, and you're going to start to realize, hey, and not that people are being malicious, and not that they won't change or grow with you, just you start to realize, hey, I need to address this relationship dynamic. I need to address this friendship, because this is not actually, like, I'm trying to prioritize my well-being. I would think that someone close to me wants me to do that and would want to encourage me in doing that.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to address this situation, this relationship, whatever it is, And how often do we see it with couples where
Yep.
one is doing stuff and the other's not supportive? Like, what the fuck? Why would you not want your partner being, why would you not want to support your partner in them bettering themselves and making themselves more healthy? That's a good thing. You should be doing that. But you're going to deal with this with your friends. It's going to be awkward. You're going to get made fun of, but you're going to start looking better, feeling better, acting better, and they're going to stay the same. They're actually probably going to drop off. If they don't want to grow with you, they'll drop off because you are pricking their conscience and they don't want to do the work that they see you doing.
Don't get me wrong. It's exhausting.
Yeah, but it puts a lot of your life in alignment when you start taking control of this stuff.